One of the most difficult and painful times in my life followed what I consider to be one of the most positive achievements in my life. We had ridden out from a little town that we thought was a bit dangerous. We'd been harassed, had stones thrown at us by children, and as it was getting dark, we thought the safest plan that we could make would be to leave the town and to ride out on this winding, narrow dirt road, which was in fact the main road to Addis Ababa in northern Ethiopia, and to find a nice safe place on the side of the road to sleep where we would not be harassed. And this is what we had done. We had found a little bank on the side of the road. We'd climbed up onto that. There's a little bit of grass and some bushes, and we'd settled down. And it was starting to get dark, and we were busy doing some basic maintenance on our bicycles and settling in for what we thought would be an uneventful evening. And then we heard a truck. Now, in northern Ethiopia, you don't hear cars on the move at night. Well, you didn't in those days. And to hear a truck was a little bit ominous. And by this time it was almost completely dark. So we kind of hunkered down thinking, well, the people probably wouldn't see us. We had chosen a spot off the road and up. People would probably not be looking up as they drove past. So we figured as long as we kept still and we got lucky, we'd be okay. We didn't get lucky. It was a large tip truck that came past, and on the back of it was a group of men, maybe 8, 9, 10 people, I don't remember. And we could see them silhouetted against the sky in the dark. And we could see that they all carried guns, AK-47. So AK-47s in northern Ethiopia in 1994 was hardly a novelty. You're more likely to see somebody carrying a gun than you were to see somebody wearing shoes. So we didn't think too much of that, but they had spotted us. The truck ground to a standstill, and they jumped off the back and came hauling up towards us. We knew we were in trouble. There was no common language, so we didn't know what they wanted, but they made it quite clear that we were getting onto the back of the truck with them. They grabbed our bicycles. We did our best to make sure they weren't damaged. They ripped up our bedrolls and tents and so on, stamped out our fire. And we were left with no choice but to get into the back of the truck. And in silence, and in now complete darkness, we headed off the road in the direction which we'd been heading. As soon as the truck found a place wide enough to turn around, it turned around, and we headed off back in the direction from which we'd come. The people on the back of the truck looking around, I thought, a little nervously. Well, if not nervously, they were certainly alert. Anyway, they took us back to the town and dumped us in front of a ramshackle little building that turned out to be the police station. And the policeman came out who spoke English and said to us, "Are you sleeping here tonight?" He pointed at the ground. Stony, thorny, people around watching. And we weren't too happy about it. And when we told him we weren't too happy about it, he said, "You can't be sleeping out there. You can't be out there in the dark. There are shifters." And shifters was the word they used for, I suppose you could just say, bandits. He said, "The hills are full of shifters and they will kill you. You will sleep here tonight." How had I found myself on the side of the road in Ethiopia being picked up by armed men? What had led to that? It's not a complicated story. In my late 20s, my father had committed suicide. My marriage had come apart and I'd gotten divorced. My little business had failed. I'd packed up and sold everything and moved to the United States with an American girlfriend. That relationship had come apart in a truly magnificent fashion. And I found myself at 32, 33 years old, functionally homeless. No job. I owned a bicycle and a few little odds and pieces, and I just didn't know where I was going to go next. I just had no idea. I didn't see a future. And I'd hit on this idea of having some kind of an adventure, some kind of a positive, life-affirming experience that would give me a sense of myself, a sense of self-confidence, to prove to myself that I had some worth. So I sold up all the bits and bobs, and I headed off to Israel and decided I would ride a bicycle from Damascus Gate in Jerusalem to Johannesburg. I met a few other quite wild characters that thought this sounded like a reasonable thing to do, and we'd set off. And that's how I wound up on the side of the road in Ethiopia. Well, perhaps at this point you're asking yourself, did it work? If you're feeling like down and out and you don't know what to do with yourself, would something like this work? For me, I would say yes, it did. It was overwhelmingly a positive experience. It was physically exceptionally demanding, psychologically harrowing, at times very dangerous, a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, a lot of good things happened. So yes, overwhelmingly a positive experience. Would I do it again? Most certainly. And what were the consequences of all of this positiveness? 2 years after arriving back in South Africa on the bicycle, I found myself sharing a flat where we couldn't afford to pay the electricity bill with a crackhead prostitute in Yeovil. Still didn't earn anything, going to work by bicycle. Those 2 years that got me to that point they'd been rough. Let's just say they'd been rough. It was not what I expected. I imagined myself arriving back in South Africa, having achieved this and feeling positive, and automatically good things would happen. That isn't what happened. That isn't how life works, apparently. What had happened is I arrived back in South Africa and I needed to find work as fast as possible. A friend had given me some money to buy clothes. I got and bought clothes at a local flea market and managed to get a job selling shoes while I was there. About a week later, I also got a job as a photographic assistant in a photographic studio, so I was working weekends in the flea market and weeks in a photographic studio. And I felt completely and utterly alienated from life in general. I had difficulty making friends. I was unable to speak to people. My leisure time consisted of going to a local pub and just sitting and drinking on my own night after night. Weekends consisted of going to the same pub, taking LSD, and just staying up for 48 hours straight drinking. It was a mess. And after 2 years, I woke up one day, got off my little mattress, collected my bicycle off the veranda, and the woman I was living with was sitting there with her dealer, and they were both of them completely off their faces. And she was for some reason covered in paint, even around her mouth, and they were smoking crack. And I got on my bicycle and I went off to work, and I thought, what the hell has happened to me? The problem is, as I see it, when you have a very positive and powerful experience, it changes you in a fundamental way. And you need to integrate that experience into your life. We are essentially the stories that we tell about ourselves. If somebody says, who are you? You might say your age, your name, your occupation, where you were born, what you're interested in, and what you've done. When what you've done has changed fundamentally, how you see yourself needs to change as well. And that's where the difficulty arrives. I would encourage anybody to have experience like this to give themselves a little bit of time to be gentle, to get professional help, to speak to people. And I know that can be expensive, and a lot of people are reluctant to do that. And if you are, consider just telling yourself stories, tell other people stories, write. Today we talk about journaling, and it just sounds like a rather fancy way of saying just write your stories. It forces you to organize your thoughts. It forces you to tell yourself a new story about who you are, about what you are. It integrates your new powerful experiences into yourself. It allows you to understand a little bit better where you are in the world now and how you relate to people. When I went through this difficult period, I had a lot of people say to me, "Where are you from?" Even though I was in a place where I had lived, where I had come from, they would say, "Where are you from?" And I always got the sense that what they really wanted to ask was, "What's happened to you?" And at that point, I wouldn't have been able to explain it. It took me years to integrate these experiences. That if somebody says to me now, "What happened to you?" I can tell you because I've told myself. I think it's interesting, the number of people that win the lottery and are declared bankrupt not long after. The negative consequence of positive experiences. Life can be hard and complicated.